Get your priority list. Which one do you think is most important?
Great.
Okay, welcome. Good morning, everyone. My name is Moreland and I have the pleasure of serving as counsel to Governor Cuomo. And as many of you know, we are here today for an important announcement, and that is the governor will be announcing the Moreland Commission he has formed, and he is joined by many distinguished colleagues and the commissioners, both here in Albany and New York City, and it's great to be here. I want to mention that a few of the commissioners regrettably could not be here today, and that I'll just run through those names. The co-chair, one of the co-chairs, Kathleen Rice, District Attorney from Nassau County. Co-chair Milt Williams, he's a partner at Vladeck, Waldman, Elias, and Engelhard. Eric Korngold, who's a partner at Friedman, Kaplan, Seiler, and Edelman. Frank Sedita, the District Attorney of Erie County. David Javdan, he's Managing Director at Alvarez and Marsal. Peter Zimroff, he's a partner at Arnold and Porter. And one of the special advisors is also not able to attend, Joseph D'Amico. He's Superintendent of the New York State Police because he's taking care of some other business at the moment on behalf of the governor. So I'd also like to acknowledge that we have some staff who's going to be working with the commission here from the Attorney General's office, and that's Kelly Donovan and John Amodio. So thank you all so much for joining, and thank you all so much for agreeing to serve. At this point, I'd like to have everybody go around and just introduce who they are, and that includes the New York City. So shall we start?
Very good.
I want to start with the Attorney General.
The Attorney General, Eric Schneider.
Eric Schneider, Attorney General. You want to introduce yourself?
David, you're next.
David Soares, Albany County District Attorney.
Christy Sprague, Essex County District Attorney.
Joni Mahoney, Onondaga County Executive.
Jerry Mullen, Broome County District Attorney.
Pat Barrett, Chairman of CARPAT.
Barbara Bartoletti, Legislative Director for the New York State League of Women Voters.
Champaign, Franklin County District Attorney.
Carl Matua, of Buffalo Law School.
Tom Zugaby, Rutland County District Attorney.
Kate Hogan, Warren County District Attorney.
Bill Fitzpatrick, Onondaga County DA.
Now to New York City.
Betty
Weinberg, Ellerin, Senior Counsel, Alston and Burr.
Dan Castleman, FBI Consultant.
Nancy Hoppick, the Center on the Administration of Criminal Law at NYU Law School.
Benito Romano, Partner, Freshfield, Bruckhaus, and Derringer.
Raymond Kelly, New York City Police Commissioner.
Robert Morgendorf, counsel to Martell, Lipton, Rosen, and Cox.
Larry Schwartz, Secretary to the Governor.
Rob Johnson, Bronx District Attorney.
David Jones, President of the Community Service Society.
Lance Liebman, Columbia Law School.
Richard Berfault, Columbia Law School.
Seymour J., Attorney in charge of criminal practice at the Legal Aid Society.
Great.
Good. Thank you. Well, first, thank you to Moreland Dentistry for working so hard to organize today. Thank you all for being here on relatively short notice. Many of you have traveled a long way, so we appreciate that. To our colleagues in the New York City office, we can see you very clearly. Actually, the technology works this morning, so it's a good morning in that regard. This is a very powerful step that this state government is taking. And as complicated as it is as simple as it is. Every relationship is about trust at the end of the day. If it's a husband and wife, if it's friendship, and citizens to their government, it's about trust. The recent rash of wrongdoing by legislators in Albany has shaken the public confidence, the public trust in government. You hear about it from one end of this state to the other. It's not that corruption in government is new. In many ways, it's the oldest drama, how power corrupts. But it is inexcusable. To me, public corruption is a double crime. It's the underlying crime, and then it's the crime of breaching the public trust, because when you're an elected official especially, you put yourself in a special position. You go to the people of this state, the people of your district, and you say, trust me, I'm here to serve you. So breaching that trust, violating that trust, to me is a separate and inexcusable offense. Our obligations as elected officials is first and foremost to make sure the wrongdoers are punished and that the punishment is sure and swift. And second, to make sure there is a system in place that is working to prevent the wrongdoing in the first place, the right policing procedures and the right prosecution procedures when a wrongdoer is actually caught and convicted. I tried to pass comprehensive legislation this past session that would do just that. It was sweeping and broad legislation, campaign finance, public finance, electoral reforms. That legislation did not pass the legislature. Your mission, therefore, is to accomplish what the legislation, I believe, would have accomplished. Your mission is to put a system in place that says, A, we're going to punish the wrongdoers, and to the extent people have violated the public trust, they will be punished. Two, there is a system in place so the public should feel confident that if there is wrongdoing going on, there's a system in place that will catch those people and make sure it doesn't happen again. I don't believe people are naive. I believe people are sophisticated. I think they know that there's going to be corruption in government, that there's always been corruption in government, but they want to know that there is a system in place, that somebody is watching. And that's what they're really questioning about state government now. Is there a system in place that is effective at preventing this? And if people do wind up breaking the law, is there a system in place that's going to catch them? That's your mission. I believe with the credibility of this commission, you can go a long way towards restoring that public trust. I believe there has never been a more credible group of law enforcement professionals assembled in this state on this type of commission, period. This is truly a unique convening of the most seasoned, the most credible, the most experienced law enforcement professionals and government professionals that has been brought together. And I think the convening itself and your assemblage itself will go a long way towards telling the public they have a government that they can trust because someone is watching and people with experienced eyes are actually watching the system. This comes at a good time. It comes at a time when The JCOPE agency is going to be filing new public disclosure forms. The law was changed last year to require more disclosure from elected officials, more financial disclosure, more personal disclosure, business relationships, etc. That law actually takes effect now to the extent that that information is now going to be made public. So there will be unprecedented disclosure and unprecedented transparency by elected officials. Never before have elected officials put forth this much information. So transparency and disclosure will be prong one. Prong two, your mission, enforcement. And there is no substitute for enforcement. As former Attorney General, as a former Assistant District Attorney in the great office of Bob Morgenthau, I know firsthand there is no substitute for effective enforcement. And any system and any set of laws are only as good as the enforcement mechanism behind them. Coming with the JCOPE disclosure, I think this is a powerful 1-2 punch. Disclosure, transparency, and a new enforcement mechanism, which I think the combination will be powerful. I don't want anyone to get the wrong implication by this appointment. I do not believe that the wrongdoing typifies the people who we've elected in this state. I actually believe the opposite. I believe the overwhelming majority, 99% of the elected officials in this state are elected for the right reason. They're good people. They're here to do the right thing. They work very hard. They're away from their families, and they're in public service to do good. I believe that. I believe we're talking about the exception rather than the rule. I also believe that in some ways your presence, your mission will vindicate the good elected officials, because right now everyone gets painted with a broad brush. And this will vindicate the good elected officials to the extent that they are now being tarnished by the implication of the wrongdoing of the few. I also want to make sure there's no implication that there's any suggestion that because we would appoint this commission, there's anything less than total belief in this state government. I believe profoundly in the function and the competence and the mission of this state government. I believe in some ways the mission is only limited by the people's trust. And to the extent we restore people's trust will actually increase the capacity of state government to do good things. As I said, it is about trust, and to the extent that trust is limited, the capacity is limited. To the extent that trust is grown, the capacity will be grown. And I believe this state needs a functioning state government. I believe we've already shown in the past 2 years what a difference a functioning state government can make. And I believe if we continue to increase the public's confidence in government, you're going to see that capacity increase at the same time. I want to thank each and every one of the people who have agreed to serve on this commission. You are all extraordinary in your own right, bring different discrete areas of expertise, but you are a powerful combination, no doubt. You all have day jobs, and you're all extraordinarily busy. So I truly, truly appreciate that you're taking the time to take on this commitment. It's not an easy one. It won't be discharged lightly, but it is essential at the same time. With that, I want to now turn it over to the Attorney General, and I want to thank him for joining us in this effort. The Attorney General's jurisdiction will be designating the Commission as Deputy Attorneys General, which will bring broader investigative powers and is going to make this commission a truly, truly powerful entity that can do good for the state. So I want to thank the Attorney General again for that. And with that, let me turn it over to Attorney General Eric Schneiderman.
Thank you, Governor, and thanks to all of you who have agreed to serve as commissioners. This is an extraordinarily important endeavor, and let me start really where the governor ended. Those of us who believe in government as a force for good must be the harshest critics of corruption, waste, fraud, and abuse in government. And I know the governor is a true believer in what New York State's government can accomplish, and there's a certain level of reverence for what New York State can be that I think he and I share, having grown up during a particular period of our state's history, and having some mentors who actually were a part of that history. The corruption that now is perceived by the public to be rampant in state government undermines the ability of every part of the state government to function. It has to be addressed. It has to be addressed comprehensively. This commission, which is empowered by the governor under Section 6 of the executive law, will have broad jurisdiction to investigate, and as he indicated, he has directed me in the executive order to look into the matters that the executive order assigns to the commission's direction and calls to their attention, and I am deputizing the commissioners as special deputy attorneys general and conveying to them the power of our office to investigate any branch of government, any local entity, essentially anything related to public health, safety, and it's all set forth in the governor's executive order. In New York State, we need to have public confidence that not just are there effective ways to root out corruption, and there are proposals that are on the table to make it easier for those of us who are prosecutors to go after public corruption. It is important, and this commission is uniquely empowered to do this. It is important to take a look at the state's existing laws and regulations to also address things that are legal but perhaps should not be legal. This commission is empowered and directed to make recommendations to strengthen the laws, practices, and procedures of state agencies. This is a commission that investigates, can refer criminal and even civil violations to my office or the office of other prosecutors, and this is a commission that can hold hearings and issue reports making recommendations for reform. In New York State, we have a voting system that sometimes seems to be set up to make it as hard for people to vote as possible. We have an election law and regulations and enforcement of election law and regulations that sometimes seems like a welcome wagon for pay-to-play schemes. And our campaign finance law and the enforcement of those laws, frankly, have become something of a national embarrassment. In short, New York's democratic process has become undemocratic. This commission will be uniquely empowered to take a top-to-bottom review of all aspects of our state government, to refer findings of specific cases of misconduct, and to recommend reforms. The people of the state of New York want real reform. And I view this commission as being, as the governor said, an extraordinary group of people who together bring collective wisdom in many, many different spheres, and also a collective commitment to real reform. And that is really essential to this. I think that the staff is going to be, we are committed in our office to providing whatever resources we can to the commissioners. I know that the governor is as well. We have some of our best staff people already assigned to work with the commission. And the challenge the commissioners face is really only, is well met by the people we're putting in power here and the staff we're providing to them, and their jurisdiction is as broad as it can be. I am a great believer in essential progressive American values. I believe in our electoral democracy. I believe in our institutions of government, and this commission should be a major force for restoring public confidence in those institutions and in that form of government. I thank you all for weighing in at this critical point in state history, and I think together we can accomplish a lot.
Good. Thank you, Attorney General. Well said. The commission will be headed by 3 co-chairs, Kathleen Rice, District Attorney of Nassau County, Milt Williams, and the 3rd co-chair, who I have the pleasure of introducing now, who really needs no introduction, who is a legendary district attorney in the state of New York, who has done a great job for Onondaga County and the people of Central New York, and with this assignment will be bringing his talent statewide. He's doing it obviously on top of everything else that he has to do. So we thank him very much again for the fantastic contribution he's brought to the state already through public service, and then for taking on this additional responsibility. I'll turn it over now to District Attorney William Fitzpatrick.
Thank you, Governor. That's a tremendous challenge when your governor calls you and asks you to co-chair a commission whose job it is to essentially restore public trust to the people of the state of New York. Normally I would say something banal like, I'm happy to be here or something like that, but I'm not happy to be here because it's not necessary for the commissioners to be here. I read in the New York media this morning that some legislators have already come out and said they're going to challenge the commission. They're surprised that Governor Cuomo appointed a Moreland commission. Why would you be surprised? We sat in this room 2 weeks ago. The governor laid out his legislative agenda, which 62 elected DAs throughout the state of New York signed on to and helped craft. And he said, if you don't pass it, I'm going to appoint this commission. I mean, what is the magic number that it takes people to say, wow, there's a problem here? The number's at about 35 right now. People indicted, under investigation, or already sentenced to prison. 35. Is the magic number 50? I would hope not. I would hope that at some point throughout the tenure of this commission, the leaders of the legislature and other elected officials throughout the state say this is a good thing and we're going to cooperate as best we can. I just read a Quinnipiac poll. 75% of New York voters think that the legislative leaders are doing a poor to lousy job in cleaning out corruption in their own houses. And the other 25% are probably working for them. I don't know how that 75% could be that low. But the one thing that I'm most encouraged about, aside from my friendship with the governor and my knowledge of him, and when I see Attorney General Schneiderman and I look at the quality of people that he's already brought into the room, the one thing that I'm most impressed about is the quality of this commission. The governor said it was a great assemblage of law enforcement talent. I said privately it's the greatest assemblage of law enforcement talent since Bob Morgenthau dined alone at Forlini's. And it is a tremendous responsibility. I have no intention, whatever our tenure is, to down the road to stand in front of you, Governor, and say, here's some silly report, you know, put it on a desk somewhere and put it on a shelf and let's get back to business as usual. That's not the way I do things. It's not the way I've ever done things in my 35 years of public service. You've given me and the rest of the commission a tremendous responsibility. I will make only one promise today, Governor, and that is I will not let you down, and I know I speak for all of us.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well said. With that, we'll turn it over to the press for any questions that you might have.
Governor, is there a time frame in terms of when you want to hear at least the initial report?
It's a preliminary report, Ken, in the executive order at the end of this year, and a final report the end of next. It's up to them, but if they believe it would be helpful, yes.
Governor, obviously, you pushed so hard and mentioned it to get it built up in the legislative session. Didn't happen. Is this a better alternative, or is this just an alternative?
You know, it is different. It is different. As DA Fitzpatrick said, we were in this room. 62 DAs supported our Clean Up Albany package, legislative package. That was extraordinary. That really was extraordinary. 62 DAs from all across the state, different regions, different political parties. I think it was emblematic of the situation where you had that unanimity, 62 district attorneys. Now, the legislation was sweeping. I said that. I understand it was difficult for the legislature because it was so dramatic a reform. And I also said to you, frankly, that I was unwilling to compromise the legislation because I didn't want to water down the reforms. And this, I believe, was a better alternative to any compromised legislative package. I believe this is, you look at the composition of this commission. literally, you have legendary law enforcement talent on this commission. And this is a powerful, powerful signal. And I want to send the signal to two audiences. One are the elected officials in the state of New York. We're going to raise the bar on public integrity, public trust. And second, to the people of the state. I want to be able to say, look, we have the best people in the business watching. And to the extent your trust is a little shaken over the past few months, and to the extent you've been reading things in the newspapers with legislators getting into trouble, and you're wondering what's going on, and you're wondering if you can trust your government, well, look at the people who will be doing this task. And I believe if the people just take a quick look at this commission and the talent on this commission, they have to feel better about the confidence level in state government.
I just want to also call your attention to the executive order. What this commission is empowered to do is truly unique. They will investigate and identify cases of misconduct, but the governor has directed them to look at the weaknesses in existing laws and to make a report for recommending reforms that then can be enacted into legislation. So the two are not inconsistent. This is not an end to the effort to pass reform legislation. In addition to restoring public confidence that all aspects of New York State government are being given close scrutiny, this is a powerful vehicle for continuing the effort to enact real reform.
Do you gentlemen believe that this panel will have the power to compel sitting legislators to testify or to subpoena their records?
Yes.
Yes.
What exactly, what does it mean that they are going to be deputized as deputy attorney general?
The executive law has two sections that we're invoking today. The first under Section 6, which is referred to as the Moreland Act, and the section is subsection 8 of Section 63. The governor, in his executive order, and the governor has this power to direct me to investigate and inquire into any matter relating to the public peace, public safety, and public justice of the state. That covers everything. And I am carrying out that direction by deputizing these commissioners as deputy attorneys general and giving them the full authority that I possess under that section of law. They are empowered to investigate everything, any aspect of New York State and local governments, to issue a report, and again, as I said, uniquely, they are positioned also to look at weaknesses in existing laws, regulations, and procedures for enforcement of those laws, and in addition to identifying specific cases of misconduct, to come up with recommendations, and I truly believe this is a powerful vehicle for continuing the effort towards true reform.
Yeah, this is, excuse me one second, this is, excuse me a second, this is not a debatable presumption. The jurisdiction here is broad and sweeping. That's why initially I said broad or sweeping legislative changes through the Clean Up Albany Act or broad and sweeping jurisdiction through the Moreland Commission. Glenn?
Much of this commission will deal with campaign finance and the system of raising money in the state. You're sitting next to one of the state's biggest fundraisers. Do you have any reluctance in going into other government activities that you've done?
Are you telling me that Mylan Dennerstein is one of the big... Oh, this gentleman. I don't know. It might be a conflict. I've actually contributed to the governor's campaign, even though I'm a different faith than he is. No, if the governor's not looking to, I mean, he and I have spoken about this. He's not looking for rubber stamps. He's looking for an independent commission, and we'll do what Deep Throat told Bob Woodward to do: follow the money.
You have also, excuse me, you have a, when you look at this commission, you have not only top law enforcement personnel, but you have regional diversity, you have political party diversity. District attorneys have a political affiliation. So you have bipartisan, you have people from regions, you have local prosecutors, your former federal prosecutors. I don't know how you could have a more diverse, encompassing group of professionals than we put together here.
Governor, what model was the
The Moreland commissions have been used over the years, different configurations. Some governors have appointed themselves as a Moreland commission, believe it or not. Some are bigger, some are smaller. The FIRA commission was impaneled to make recommendations on campaign finance reform. They did that. This is different. I don't want to get into better or worse. I think you come up with an application for the time. This commission is primarily, when you look at the talent, and as I said, you have a dual mission. One, investigative enforcement, right? You talked about the Board of Elections, and you have, in my opinion, you don't have an adequate enforcement mechanism. So first, investigative enforcement. That's what district attorneys do. That's what U.S. attorneys do. That's what attorneys general do. That's the first order of business. Second is to make suggestions for legislative reforms going forward. How do we fix the system? But it's a dual mission. This is not an academic exercise. Yes, we want to report on changes to the system if they believe changes to the system need to be made. But the first order of business is the enforcement function. And that's the predominance of the expertise on this commission.
What about the fear from lawmakers that they've raised that, that they fear could turn into a political witch hunt against the legislators? And what happens if they don't cooperate? If they say, no, we are not going to testify?
Look, Ken, a little reality, just for a change. It's inarguable. District Attorney Fitzpatrick mentioned the Quinnipiac poll. Go to any person on the street and say, do you think there's a question with corruption in the legislature? The answer is yes. You just went through several months where almost on a daily basis there was another story in the newspaper about another legislator accused of wrongdoing. Ask them, well, has that shaken your confidence in government? And the answer is yes. It's not about a witch hunt. It's clear there are cases that need to be policed. I mean, that's inarguable at this point. I understand people say what people say, but why we are doing this and the need to do this is totally clear to anyone who has been living in this state.
And if they don't cooperate?
It's called a subpoena. There's very few options not to cooperate.
And as the governor said, this is not, the jurisdictional issue is not an open question. We've been talking together since the end of session. We have a belt and suspenders here. There's jurisdiction to look at any aspect of the state government. It is not specifically directed at the legislature by any means. The commission is empowered to investigate any and every aspect of the state government that relates to the issues the governor has pointed to in his executive order. But this is going to be a commission uniquely empowered to take a full top-to-bottom review and identify wrongdoing and make recommendations for reform.
Also, Ken, 1 second. I also think gratuitously that it's a mistake for an elected official to get defensive about this. I think, as I said, the overwhelming number of elected officials are here to do the right thing, and they're honorable people who perform admirably. They have unfortunately been tarnished with a broad brush because of the bad apples. Fine. Now we'll have a system in place that if the public had confidence in the system, then you could distinguish between the good and the bad. Right now, they're not distinguishing between the good and the bad. Everybody's bad because they don't have confidence in the system. And I think this can actually vindicate the good elected officials who are the overwhelming number. And I think the right response is, great, great, I welcome it. Because I welcome restoring the public trust, because I believe in government, and I'm happy that there's going to be real enforcement on campaign finance laws, ethics laws, et cetera, because that's actually going to vindicate the people who've been doing the right thing all along.
And just as a follow-up, you have spoken about a lot of this will focus on the Board of Elections and donations and money that's been given and possible legislation as a result. You've also mentioned in the past the issue of member items through state agencies. That's obviously where a lot of the corruption has come out of. Will this commission be looking into that?
They can do that. If they so choose, up to them. They're very broad jurisdiction, they can do that. They can look at the not-for-profits who lobby, the C3s, the C4s, C5, C6, you know, this whole bizarre framework of quote-unquote not-for-profit organizations that get tax benefits, but then are lobbyists, but because of some, what I consider a nuance, are allowed to get away with it legally. So there's a lot for them to look at. And again, as the DA said, they'll follow the money and they'll go where the commission chooses to go.
Governor, will there be a dedicated staff for this commission? And if so, what level of funding will the commission have?
We have, they'll have whatever funding they deem necessary to do their job. Regina Calcaterra is going to be the executive director. She just finished as the Moreland executive director on the utility LIPA Moreland, which did an extraordinarily good job and powerful job, and has resulted in, I believe, valuable information being turned over to the prosecutors. Kelly Donovan will be the chief counsel. Who else do we have?
You have Danya Perry, who's the
Danya Perry, former Southern District U.S. Attorney, will be the Chief of Investigations.
And John Amodio.
John Amodio will be the Chief of the Legislative Operation.
And what stream of the budget is this coming from to fund their operation?
We're going to find, we'll find the money in the budget.
Governor, one of the concerns about JCO, and Mr. Attorney General also, one of the concerns about JCO is that it was set up and does operate in secrecy, and so the public really doesn't get a look at what they're doing and how they're doing this. Is the Moreland Commission going to be in any way different than that, or is this all going to proceed in secrecy and then eventually we're going to get a report, or are we going to get leaks from time to time?
You take the leaks from time to time. When
you know, I'm
that would be a crime under this one.
I am shocked that you would suggest leaking in Albany. This is a very different entity than JCO. And as a body empowered under Section 63(8) of the executive law, there are, in fact, obligations to conduct an investigation and maintain certain levels of confidentiality because witnesses and those who are being investigated have some rights. So there's a clear set of rules for confidentiality, but the commissioners have full discretion to hold open hearings, meetings from time to time, whatever they deem appropriate to accomplish the missions. And again, I would commend to you the executive order, and as to your questions about the scope of the inquiry, there are 3 paragraphs in the executive order where the governor has succinctly laid out the areas that the commission is directed to inquire into. But this is an investigative body, and there is a clear set of rules regarding confidentiality. It is not a newly created entity. This is something that is, again, as the governor said, the law on this is established and clear.
Is Silver, Skelos, and Klein directly to come and personally testify?
It's up to the commission.
Do you think that they should?
It's up to the commission. I don't have an opinion on what the commission should do. They'll do what they think they should do. Who are you asking, I'm sorry?
The commission is directed to look at certain matters. It is tremendously important that the commission be given full reign. We have 3 great co-chairs. They're going to determine where they go and what's the most effective use of their time and resources. The initial report, due at the end of the year, is a fairly short time frame. Our commitment, my commitment, the governor's commitment, is to empower them and to provide them with whatever resources they seek to accomplish that mission.
Let me ask you, excuse me one second. Our colleagues who are in New York City office, I don't want you to feel left out of it. You look a little bored there. Does anyone, not you, Larry, you looked very animated and engaged. Does anyone there have anything that they would like to add?
Any leaks?
Okay, well, thank you. I just wanted to make sure you were paying attention.
Governor, I also have a question.
Yeah, you know what, let's do off-topic. We have a lot of people in this room who have important things to do. I'm going to excuse them. I'll come back for off-topic, if that's okay.
One more off-topic.
Yeah.
You've in the past been reluctant to invoke Section 63 to give the broad jurisdiction to the Attorney General. Can you talk about how you've arrived at using it now?
Well, look, the situation has evolved over time, right? We've been saying that first, I was proposing comprehensive legislation, and I said I thought that legislation could make a significant difference. That was unsuccessful. I said before they decided not to do the legislation, if they don't do that legislation, then I believe the Moreland Commission could be a powerful vehicle. I think we arrived at where we are today by a function of those circumstances. I think this is the question before, what would have been better, this Moreland or the legislation? I think there are different ways to get to the same place, but I think the goal is the same. The people of this state should sleep better tonight knowing that there is a mechanism in place to make sure their government is not only competent, but is also meeting the highest ethical and legal standards. And I think they should feel better about that today.
So this public justice provision, I know it came up in the 2010 AG campaign. Why only now? I know that some people push to have this done immediately. You, as AG, have these powers.
Yeah, it's worse now, Jimmy. Read the newspapers. It's been worse over the past few months, and I think we needed to take dramatic action. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, Nick.
The broad majority of these corruption cases, though, have been, involving state legislators and lawmakers. Given that, how can lawmakers feel assured that this isn't a witch hunt, that this isn't you declaring war on the legislature, that this isn't your nuclear option on them?
I said the question again. I'm sorry.
Given that the broad majority of the corruption cases had involved state lawmakers, how can they feel assured that this isn't some sort of witch hunt, that this isn't you declaring war?
Well, the concept of witch hunt, when you use that word, you're suggesting that you're looking for something that isn't there. See, that's the concept of the witches, because there really were no witches. So you couldn't really search for the witch because the witch didn't exist. That's what they're trying to say here. I'm trying to say, no. This is different. This is not about looking for something that's not there. We know it's there because we just read in the newspaper about all these cases of corruption. So this isn't an idle mission where we're creating or fabricating the issue. The truth is the exact opposite. And we want the people of this state to know you have a mechanism in place, be it the Clean Up Albany legislative package or be it a Moreland Commission. You have a mechanism in place that is going to assure that this government is a government of integrity and a government that you can trust. And we didn't pass the legislation. I could argue this is just another way to do the same thing. Look at the talent. Look at the experience. Look at the credibility. You couldn't design a better, more professional mechanism with more power and more capacity than this mechanism to police this government. It has never been done before. You couldn't do more if you wanted to. You couldn't get more talent around the table if you wanted to. And that should allow people to sleep better. I hope they do. I hope they trust this government more, because if they trust the government more, then the government can actually do more good things for them. And that's what it's about. Everyone around this table believes in the capacity of government. That's why they're around the table. Not because they disbelieve, not because they think they're a bunch of bad people, but they think they're good people who are trying to do good things, and government can be a vehicle for good. We need the public's trust, and I believe it should be restored when they look around this table, and I believe over time it will be. Thank you all very much for taking the time to do it, and thank you for the members of this commission and their willingness to serve. Thank you.